We're here with Chris Hegedus and Nick Doob, the co-directors of Franken, God Spoke, before the area premiere of the film. Chris and Nick, could you tell us a little bit about how you settled on Franken as a subject for one of your documentaries?
Well, we always joke that we switched Al's because we started making a film with Al Sharpton and followed him on the beginning of his campaign for about 7 months. And then somebody within his campaign decided they wanted to do the same film. And you couldn't really have two people jumping in the car with a camera following Reverend Sharpton, so we decided to stop filming. And we were pretty depressed and kind of moping around our office because he's a very interesting person, and the campaign was very exciting, a lot of energy around it, a lot of emotions, and we were looking for another subject, and somebody in our office saw an article about Fox News about to sue Al Franken over the title of his book, Lies and the Lying Liars Who Tell Them, A Fair and Balanced Look at the Right. And so we thought, that would be a fun thing to do. And unfortunately, it was laughed out of court in one day, so there wasn't a film there. But he was going around promoting his book, and his book was pretty amazing, and he was kind of taking on the conservative news media and the Bush administration and the war and all sorts of issues, and huge crowds were showing up. And so he came to our office, and we asked him if we could hang out with him, and he said yes. And he really seemed like it was a turning point for him in his life, that he was going somewhere else. So it seemed like a good time.
He was a man on a mission. You had that feeling, sort of. It was a very strong feeling as soon as you met him. That he had something he wanted to accomplish. You still have that feeling from him. He's got a lot of work to do.
Nick, when you're making a film like this, is there ever a point where you feel like we have a film here or we don't have a film?
Well, this film was funny that way because we figured we'd stay with him through the end of the election, through the end of 2004 election, and so we came to the end, and it didn't come out the way Al wanted or we wanted, and so we weren't quite sure what to do next except to sort of stick close to him, and there's this scene in the movie where he watches Bush come out after he's won, the day after the election was actually announced the day after. If you remember, there was a little delay because of Ohio. Mm-hmm. And there's this look on Al's face that he's not going to take this lying down. And so, we needed to keep going with him. And so we went with him for, I think there was a couple of shoots, but we went with him to Minnesota. And there's the scene that is the last scene in the movie in the car, and we just knew after that, we knew that somehow he'd come to a kind of closure for this stage. That it just felt like we had an end to a movie. It's just something you just sort of know when it happens, and it wasn't discovered in editing or anything like that. It just on the spot we kind of knew. So it was, I think you always have a sense of a sort of a feeling of the shape of a film, and without sort of knowing quite what the film is even, and so you had that sense of shape, and this was the end.
If you look at the films that both of you have been involved with over the years, you tend to, both of you, gravitate towards performers. Are you conscious of that? You must be, obviously. But why is that?
Great subjects.
You deal with musicians, and you made a film about the staging of a play for Broadway. But then also you could. Some of the films you've made about politicians, who's a bigger performer than James Carville?
Yeah. Well, I think that people who like to be on stage are quite often good subjects, mm-hmm. But sometimes it's not intentional. I think when we started the War Room, we really didn't know we were going to stumble on James Carville there, and a lot of it is that the buddy relationship between James and George, and and that type of dynamic. And it helps if you have somebody charismatic. Even when we made Startup.com, I mean, Kalel was a very charismatic person, and again, that was kind of a buddy story too. But there are a lot of similarities there with performers and politicians and people who are taking risks, and both of them are taking great risks in their life, and they tend to be really passionate about what they're doing.
I mean, it's. I don't know if it's just performers. It's a sense of sort of somebody who's got something going on inside that you care about and that they care about. I mean, there's some sort of passion that we're following. I mean, it's not. I mean, Elaine Stritch is an actress, but this wasn't just a role for her. This was her life on stage, so it was something that had a lot more sort of depth to it.
Do you say we'll be with you, for this week, but then we'll give you a break for a week? I mean, we'll be there at 9 o'clock until 6 o'clock. How do you work out a schedule where you have access to their lives?
I think it's kind of unspoken. I mean, it's you get a sort of a feel for it, and where there's some things you want to be at, and so you sort of try to protect those things so that they'll happen. But you can't really, I don't know if it's a good idea even to discuss that sort of thing with a person. You want it to sort of evolve as a relationship. I mean, it's, again, with Al, he there seemed to be no limit to what he would allow us to do, which I thought was very generous of him. I mean, we didn't press him to do things that seemed uncomfortable, though I can't even think of an instance that, if there was one, but it was.
I mean, it's kind of an unspoken thing where, after a while you have to just keep up with somebody and it's up to you. I mean, I think it was especially important with Al because, he wanted it to be our film and not his film. And, so it was up to us to figure out what was going on, and he would help us a little bit get into situations with him, but it was also up to, our wiles to get in and follow him places and get access, and I think that's a fair part of the game. I do think he'll run for office, but he hasn't decided yet. I mean, he moved to Minnesota, and he's doing everything he needs to do to be a viable candidate. And, he's raising a lot of money for other candidates, and he has a political action PAC, and he's meeting the people and letting them know what he's like. I think if the Democratic Party there thought that he would be some kind of detriment, to the Democrats, then he wouldn't run. But I think they're pretty much behind him.
Well, no one else is stepping into that I know of. I mean, there's no other Democrats that are stepping up.
In Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, he does apparently. Somebody said this, that he sort of is sucking the air out of anyone else's sort of idea of coming in. But it sounds like he's going to, and it sounds like people really want him to. And it sounds like it's going to be a tough fight. It's not something that will be easy no matter what.